body of water. We're the party of feminists who mean well. We mean well. We mean well. We're the not racist party that's supporting an abortion rate for black babies that's genocidal. Because we mean well. We mean well. We're the meaning well Democrat Party who supports LGBT rights and the people who throw them off buildings in other countries. But we, as the bodies are falling off the buildings, we support their rights. Come with us, Ivanka, come. And Ivanka's just like, sure, okay, whatever. Everyone I know, and everyone I know in New York is, sure, okay, Hum Abedin, whatever. She seems nice. She's got the Marc Jacobs bags. Chelsea Clinton, she seems good. The Democrats say mean well. Ivanka Trump is a beautiful, smart, accomplished, liberal dope. That's who she is. That's who she is. She hasn't figured out all the murders and everything else, and that's why even Trump, by the way, a little bit, when you call the violence of the left the alt-left, which he did, he coined that phrase. Stop calling it the alt-left. They're not the alt-left. They're the left. The left. I mean, who would think that the left supports murder based on their position on abortion? Who would possibly think that? I mean, it's crazy to think, right? I mean, it's crazy to think that there's any violence inherent in their what? I'm sorry, what? Oh, never mind. I don't call them the alt. I really don't. It's not the alt-left. It's the left. It's the left. It's provably the left. So, what they did was they wormed their way in to the Trump administration. Gary Cohn, registered Democrat, Kushner, but by the way, they're the left, but this is the thing you have to understand about them. Inherent in the left is hypocrisy, you dig? You have to be hypocritical. You have to be. There's no choice. You can't consistently be leftist, otherwise, and certainly not be a billionaire. You can't be an heiress. You notice these people don't give up all their money? Have you noticed that part? Have you noticed they hold on to the money? Have you noticed people like Bill and Hillary Clinton make a lot of money? So don't be shocked by the hypocrisy. It's built into the system. It has to be. It's one of the little contradictions. Can I go, let me go. Because see, I'm not anti-intellectual. You have to understand. Despite what I said about the dopiness, I can go full Hegel on you here. May I approach this dialectically? Let me explain the fundamental conflict in communism. It has to do with the oppressor-oppressed model, which is a Hegelian dialectic idea that there's two opposing forces, right? Now, let me contrast Marxism with Christianity. Let me just do that. Again, it's going to make some people's heads explode, but let me do it. Marxism is based on the oppressor-oppressed model. The oppressor-oppressed model inherently always has a victim. It is always victim-based. Okay? Christianity, let's use that as a different ideological worldview, does not have a victim inherent in it. Christianity is based on redemption. In other words, you can be saved, but it doesn't come at the expense of someone else. Does that make sense? It's not like if I'm saved, you're condemned. You dig? You see the difference there? We can both be saved, or we can both be condemned. But I can be saved, you can be condemned. Do you understand? So I'm not debating it. I'm not trying to make you a Christian. I'm taking an intellectual approach, which is not actually the way I approach Christianity, believe it or not. But I can't. I can. And I'm just pointing out the difference. Now, oppressor, oppressed, there's always a victor and there's always a victim. There's always an oppressed and there's always an oppressor. You dig? Do you understand? This is the fundamental difference. It's a zero-sum game. Christianity, not the case. And what I'm going to, and the reason I'm going to mention this ideological difference is it's part of what changed in the civil rights movement in the 60s. Is the civil rights movement in the 60s went down a very wrong path because the civil rights movement originally sprung out of the black churches, right? That's where it came out of. And it came out of a Christian view, which was that we're all brothers. You dig? The Christian view is that you and I, all of us, whatever your color, whatever your creed, you're my brothers and sisters. And that is a non-victim view. You can be my brother, you can be my sister, and it doesn't take away anything. Now what happened was in the 60s, it moved from a Christian-based, the civil rights movement, to a Marxist-based, which is oppressor oppressed. Rather than the solution to racism being universal actual brotherhood, this is a key point, because I believe ideas move things. The idea shifted to oppressor oppressed, and in oppressor oppressed, one of us is the oppressor and one of us is the oppressed. And what historically has happened here, this gets back to what I was saying about the hypocrisy inherent in leftism. As soon as you've got the oppressor oppressed view, here's what happens historically in every flipping case, all the time. The oppressed overthrows the oppressor and then immediately has to find a new oppressor. And one good example of this from the world of art would be the Twilight Zone episode with Peter Falk playing Castro. You ever see that one? And it's a good episode. Peter Falk is essentially playing Castro. By the way, a slight little pop culture reference. Black Mirror is the Twilight Zone of our time. Discuss. Okay, so Peter Falk is playing Castro, and then he immediately starts to turn on his other people. Another good contemporary art example, not that contemporary, older, modern, would be Animal Farm, George Orwell's Animal Farm, where he clearly understood that once you overthrow one oppressor, you have to find a new one. Another non-art example is, for instance, what happened at the Khmer Rouge, which is in Cambodia after they overthrew, after the proletariat, the lumpen proletariat overthrew the bourgeoisie, then they started to find, they had to find a new oppressor. So it was like people with glasses, and hence you end up with the killing fields. By the way, watch the film The Killing Fields to get a little bit more on that, okay? You see that, so I'm trying to give you a few references here, but I want to make it clear. And by the way, Christianity is not the only philosophy that's like this. So I want to be clear. I'm not trying to create a false dichotomy. There are other options other than Christianity. I'm pointing out the difference, and particularly how it affected the civil rights movement. And you can see the difference in the civil rights movement as it moved from, like I say, from the churches to this oppressor-oppressed model, which is the identity politics model that we have now, which means as soon as they overthrow the white supremacists, and by the way, this is one of the things you need to understand about the left. This is why they always bicker, and they always turn on each other. They always turn on each other. Always, always, always turn on each other, because there's ultimately no redemption. It is a miserable, despicable philosophy that leads to nothing but misery and death. That's the way it works. And the way it works is because it's inherently cannibalistic. You dig? It's inherently cannibalistic. That's the way it works. And it's always racist. The socialists, the communists, if you look into the history, they're always racist. They always start. Because as soon as you stop seeing people as individuals and you only see them as functions of their class or their race or anything else. You start these divisions where you end up getting people shot in the back of the head because they're not in the right group. Do you understand? And I don't care I don't care what you call that philosophy of identity politics and victimization. I don't care whether you call it National Socialism or Democratic Socialism or Communism or whatever. The result is always the same. It's always the same. And the solution to it is abandoning identity politics and looking at individual politics. And by the way, I'll make one other pitch for Christianity here. Christianity is actually one of the first religions to focus on the redemption of it. It's a uniquely individualistic religion because it's focused on your individual soul and it's focused on your free will. Do you understand? This is a key intellectual distinction in the history of the West. And by the way, it's one of the reasons that they want to take it down. It's one of the reasons that the communists really hate Christianity, is because there is a focus on individual, your soul, your choices. You see what I'm saying? So throw that into the hamper as well. The intellectual hamper as well. But it's a big deal. Free will is inherently an individualistic concept. Free will means that you can choose something different than your past, than your upbringing, than your class, than your race, or anything else. It means that you can make a choice. It's inherently individualistic. There we go. So, I just went down a little you. That's right, you. So that's why. The hypocrisy in the left is inherent. It has to be. Because at any given time, you're either the oppressed or the oppressor, and if you realize you're the oppressor and you've got money, hey Ivanka, if you're the oppressor, why don't you give up all your money? Give up Jared Kushner, give up the apartment. Give it all up. Give it all up. You too, Chelsea. You too, Huma. You too, Hillary. You too, Bill. You too, Bernie. You too, Elizabeth Warren. You too, Kamala. All of you, give it up. Give up all your money. Give up all your stuff. Give it up. Give it up. You're hypocrites. You're hypocrites. And you know you're hypocrites. You know you're hypocrites. You absolutely all know you're hypocrites, but you don't want to give up the stuff, so you're racked with guilt, so you take it out on other people with your ugly internal emotions coming out through greed, right? Combined with jealousy, right? Combined with hatred for achievement, combined with all that stuff. And it's why you're so racked, right? Right? You know I'm right. Now give up all your stuff and you go live among the poor. All of you. All of you. Elizabeth Warren, give up all your money. Give it all up. Go right ahead. But you don't want to do that, do you? You don't want to do that. And by the way, this is why the people who are poor and on the left do despise you guys, because you've realized the thing to do, the reason you're the establishment is you've realized we're about equality. You're not about equality. You're not about equality. What have you done? You're the champion of black people. What have you done for black people in this country? What have you done? Because you weren't the ones who introduced civil rights legislation. Does anyone remember? I'll put on my glasses. Who introduced the civil rights? Does anyone remember the name of the president who introduced civil rights legislation? No, it wasn't LBJ. Learn history. You're ignorant. You're ignorant. You're saying LBJ. You're ignorant. Ike. Boom. Exactly right. Dwight David Eisenhower. Weird looking white dude. Kind of funny, sort of slightly alien shaped head. No, it wasn't JFK. It was Eisenhower. Go look it up. Go look up who introduced civil rights legislation. Learn your history. It was Dwight David Eisenhower introduced civil rights legislation, not LBJ.